On Thursday night, the Bureau of Meteorology warned of potential extreme weather conditions with a low-pressure cell developing just north of Newcastle. Over the next 12 hours, this low generated gale force southeasterlies that buffeted the city until midday on Friday. Redeveloping in the middle of the afternoon as a line of thunderstorms that ceaselessly battered Newcastle throughout the evening.
People trying to drive to Newcastle East to see anything, it's completely counterproductive. And people are driving around without their lights on in the heavy rain and hail. It's very hazardous. If anyone's listening in the car and you have to be in the car,
stay out of the city
and go home as soon as you can. Is my advice.
Havoc on the roads, and police are urging motorists to drive to the conditions.
Pulling up as we speak and taking students, those that are on the Muswellbrook bus, Aberdeen, Rookel, Gundy, Bunnan, Broadboy buses, they'll be heading off home early today because of the low-level flooding and some of the concerns.
We have power lines down on Floraville.
Apparently the A-block roof has collapsed, the buses have been sent and all the kids have been sent home.
No injuries that you know of?
No, apparently everybody's fine. It's a bit chaotic down there.
Okay.
My husband just had to piggyback me out of the golf club because all the water was coming in.
From the new...
Belted at the moment. It's an amazing sight. The spray coming right over the top of this huge tanker. It's just incredible, and the crowd's starting to build. I've got to be honest with you, the news is getting out. It's an amazing sight. It's, as dangerous as it is, it's almost spectacular.
Water levels in most areas. One image that is permanent is of a huge bulk carrier on Nobby's Beach. Just after 9 on Friday morning, listeners rang 1233's Garth Russell describing a ship struggling in the dangerous conditions only metres off one of the city's iconic beaches.
What are the ships doing?
We've been watching one for about half an hour. It's been struggling ever since, been at all angles, and it's obviously late.
Of Newcastle this morning.
Our initial concerns are for the crew are on board. There are 18 Filipino seafarers and 2 Koreans.
So 20 on board. This is going to be a hairy exercise.
Oh, it's very, very precarious, and these seafarers know the dangers of it. They spend years on these ships, but they've threatened to jump over the side because they're that concerned about what's going to happen. Rather than being broken up onto rocks and washed out in the ocean, they've threatened to jump, and so it's really made the urgency for the evacuation of the ship.
2 rescue helicopters just touched down. The wind is very, very strong. They've done an amazing effort in managing to land here in such blustery conditions.
The first of the rescue choppers is about to take off to go out to the ship and try and lift up some of the 22 Filipino crew. The second of the choppers, as I speak, is just powering up as well. There are 2 television choppers, including our very own ABC Squirrel, now hovering over the Pasha Volta. These very, very brave men on board these rescue choppers, as we understand, 2 will be lobbers, and they will relay between the 2 rescue choppers between the car park and the ship. I can't stress to you how strong the wind is down here on the beach. There is an air of anticipation here as the crews limbered up. They actually did their stretching exercises before they got into the chopper, Carol.
Of course they did.
They're in their frog suits. They've actually got snorkels as well. Trouble also with the Pasha Volca is that it is being bombarded with massive seas. I don't know whether you can hear the chopper as it takes off now and heads towards. They're going to have to make sure that they time it so that the seas are not impeding them as well as they break across the deck. Lights are on. There are 2 television choppers in the way. We've just been told that we need to relay, if we can, to our chopper that it needs to move from the area. The Westpac chopper is moving across the decking of the Pasha Volca, and again it hovers. This is amazing as another massive wave crashes over the decking. It can only be 20 metres directly above the deck.
It's only about 20 metres from the shoreline. One of the council beach inspectors, Bernie is his name, he's doing this amazing job on the jet ski, just hitting here as he takes the ship. He's there, I should imagine, in the capacity if anyone falls off or anything happens, he's there to rescue them by sea.
Being buffeted, but amazingly it's staying on course. But I have to say the rain has stopped as the first of the rescuers is being slowly lowered out the side, and he is dangling out of the rescue chopper towards the decking now. He has one arm out.
One by one, the 21 Filipino crew are being winched off the bulk carrier by rescue helicopter.
After the crew's dramatic rescue in treacherous conditions, the Pasha Volca became the city's newest attraction.
terrifying. The rain is not even horizontal anymore, it's actually going up.
It is just a disaster zone out there. There are cars abandoned everywhere, particularly in and around New Lambton and Westfield. All the roadworks there are moved all over the place. Anybody just stay at home, it's just not worth it.
Finding a fellow stranded on the roof of the car. We had to throw a rope out to him, and between 6 of us we dragged him into the bus.
Energy Australia says the storms have left 75,000 of its customers without power from the Hunter to Sydney. Crews are working throughout the night to restore supplies, and fresh teams are ready to take over tomorrow.
We just were travelling, trying to get out of streets in Hamilton, and we would have people go, don't go that way, it's shoulder high. Don't go that way. We would see a tow truck underwater. And as I said, we feel very blessed that we were able to get out, but we left our house underwater.
If Black Friday was bad, conditions got a whole lot worse at night. Storms swept in from the ocean, driven by winds reaching gale force at times. Newcastle was a particular target, and conditions seemed to turn at the same time thousands of people began heading home from work. Those that could reach their cars rode their luck as streets became torrents. This motorist went from driving to floating in a matter of seconds, just one of the many caught in the rapidly rising waters. It wasn't the only one, as abandoned cars littered the city streets. Many swallowed where they stood. Power shortages, too much of the area, only added to the dramas as emergency services were stretched to the limit. Communication became almost non-existent as phone lines were filled and mobile phone services failed.
Don't go down anywhere down here on the coast and just out of control. It's just terrible. I don't know who to call. There's no one to call.
Those who couldn't reach their cars did their best on foot as they waded to their homes, but that's where the floods took on a whole new meaning. Floodwaters poured into them, catching many by surprise as panicked residents struggled to find help in a city that was slowly being drowned.
My house, my furniture, everything is floating out the front door.
Backyards turned into swimming pools, but the rising waters didn't stop there. Kerry Hawkins did what she could to save household items in the sort of desperation mirrored in hundreds of homes across the region.
Started to light candles and everything, but that's all you can do. Just sit and hope and pray that I don't know what else there is to do.
This home, just one of the many in Newcastle's inner city suburbs to be caught. Its occupants only moved in 3 months ago, and rising waters forced a hasty retreat as new furniture lay soaked. Many residents were forced out altogether, housed in evacuation centres where they had to ride out the night. Businesses weren't spared either. Popular eateries that should have been full of diners were instead sweeping out the deluge.
As water saturated the catchment area, residents in Lorne and low-lying areas of Maitland were evacuated. and SES and emergency services anxiously kept watch on rising flood levels. This was a major test of the Maitland levee system.
The Bureau of Meteorology has predicted a flood level of 11.3 metres at the Belmore Bridge at approximately 12 noon tomorrow. This means that the following areas may be inundated: South Maitland, outside the levee ring, Louth Park, low-lying areas of East Maitland and Pitnacree. It is recommended that you evacuate within the next 3 hours. If you leave it later, roads may be congested or closed. Now, Garth, we've got crews going out to these areas now, door knocking to tell these people to leave now.
Experience major flooding in the next few hours.
There is no way anyone evacuated can get to Singleton Heights from Singleton Township itself. We're cut on the New England Highway over the other side of the river. We're cut on the Bridgman Road and we're cut on the Darlington Road. You can't get through any of them into Singleton.
So, Jan, by the sounds of it, you're stuck pretty much at this stage.
Yes.
The SES says major flooding at Maitland and Singleton in the next 24 hours will reach levels similar to the 1971 flood in the Hunter Valley.
We've had about 7 rescue events today. There were 3 people sitting on the top of one car that the boys went over in the floodboat and took them off. And we had a couple of young boys decided they'd go for a bit of a swim, so we had to go and help them come out of that. It's been an eventful day one way and another.
Major evacuations.
I'm at the SES headquarters in Rutherford, the main centre for the Maitland area. As you can imagine, things are quite hectic here. There's probably about 100 volunteers. They've come from all over the state, Dubbo, Queanbeyan and Cooma. They're deploying 3 flood boats to East Maitland area. They are predicting that the Rutherford and Western Maitland area will become cut off from East Maitland as the day progresses.
I'm down at the Maitland Railway Station where we've got probably 50 or so SES volunteers assisting New South Wales Fire Brigade and the rail authorities putting up a sandbag dike in front of the railway station to keep the water out.
You know, you start to play the roles out, the scenarios out. What would we do if we got caught? Where would we put the children? What if you got caught with a baby in the water, you know? And all those things, it does start to play on your mind. And so that's why I'm still up at 2:15.
12 months later, there were... schools and TAFE colleges if at all possible. That is, all schools.
There's a severe weather warning in place for flash flooding and dangerous surf and hazardous winds, a gale warning for coastal waters and a sheep grazier's warning.
There are currently 11,000 homes estimated to be without electricity in our area.
The New South Wales Premier Maurice Yemma has declared a natural disaster for the state's Hunter and Central Coast regions as the search continues for as many as 11 people missing in the storms.
The declaration comes after 24 hours of severe storms which brought gale force winds and flooding hit hardest on the Central Coast and in the Hunter region.
Tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock the State Emergency Committee is meeting, and we'll be obtaining reports overnight and into the morning of how the situation is.
The Bureau of Meteorology forecast that we get some average wind strengths of around about 65 kilometres this evening, but with wind gusts up to around about 90 kilometres an hour. So we do expect that there will be some tree damage out there as well, with some fallen trees, as well as the flash flooding.
Energy Australia employees have been working around the clock to restore electricity, with 1,500 people deployed to the Hunter, the Central Coast and Sydney. 100,000 households were without electricity during the height of the storm on Friday and Saturday, but tonight that figure has been cut to just 17,000. A spokesman for Energy Australia says some dwellings may not have power until the end of the week at the very least.
After the crew's dramatic rescue in treacherous conditions, the Pasha Bolka became the city's newest attraction. Salvage investigators confirmed that the outer shell of the ship's double hull had been breached and was taking on water. Creases in the hull were also visible on both sides. Despite the risks, it was decided to press ahead with the salvage. While the first two attempts moved the ship for the first time, they were hampered when cables snapped. On the third attempt, after 26 days grounded on the reef, the 76,000-tonne Pasha Bolka was finally freed. On the high tide at about 9:30 p.m. on the 2nd of July 2007, a sea anchor and 3 tugs, including the super tug Pacific Responder, rotated the ship towards deep water, towing her off and out to sea.
Just a tremendous feeling to see it just slide off that reef. It's done so quietly. It's just ecstatic to see it's moving, so the guardians of the beach get their beach back.
It's just an amazing sight after all these weeks to look down on Nobby's Beach and it's gone, and to see it moving out to sea in one piece, it's just the most amazing sight to behold. And there are plenty of smiling faces here.
Offshore, the ship was assessed for damage. Along with propeller and rudder damage from the salvage, the ship also suffered from a buckled hull and a flooded ballast tank. Minor repairs were conducted in Newcastle Harbour before being towed to Asia for further repairs. In April 2008, the Pasha Bulka was renamed MV Drake.
Indeed. And we leave you now with those images captured by our cameras of a long, wild weekend. From the entire news team,
good night.
Good night.
Let it go. I don't know where we'll go, what will happen from here, but I guess we'll mop up and go again.
Let it in. Don't go down anywhere down here on the coast. It's just out of control.
I just watched it just come straight in with waves crashing over the side of it. It was unbelievable.
All night.